Hey, Trailblazers, we have some exciting news here at the Trailblazing Texas Podcast. We have partnered up with Hilltop Packs, not just because they make amazing ultralight gear, but because they're a small family-run business doing huge things for our hiking and backpacking community. Every food bag, dry sack, fanny pack that you order can be completely customized. Print your trail name, your dog's face, your favorite mountain, or really whatever inspires you. When you shop at Hilltop Packs, you're not only buying gear that you're absolutely going to love, but you're supporting real families, real jobs, and small town craftsmanship. So head over to hilltoppacks.com and use code TTP10 to get 10% off of your order. Now on with the episode. Welcome to the Trailblazing Texas Podcast, where we embark on a journey through our diverse Texas landscapes and breathtaking trails while always engaging with our amazing Texas hiking community. So settle in, tighten up those bootlaces, and get ready for the thrilling tales awaiting for you on this episode. Welcome to the Trailblazing Texas Podcast. I'm your host, Jason, and today's guest is the founder of Trail Goods Company, Luke. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jason. It's a long time coming, it feels like.
It is. You know, we talked a little bit about this before the podcast, and I know the listeners, they hear every time one of these fantastic companies come on the podcast that support our hiking and backpacking community, support their local community with vocation, that take on all the risk. These episodes, it's my calling. It's something that I get so excited for. And I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy day to come on the podcast. And also, kind of outside of that, it is such a joy to introduce these companies to our listeners.
Yeah.
That get to meet you and see how wonderful you guys are. And then I get to hear the stories that, hey, I guess what? I bought some Trail Goods mills or, bought all their stock out. So that's the goal. And again, I can't thank you enough.
No, it's great to be here. And it doesn't matter. I had a conversation with someone today about that, kind of the same thing. Like, it doesn't matter if an audience is big or small. Like, it's a new audience and a chance to tell your story and share your brand. So, like, this is a wonderful platform to be able to do that. So happy to be here.
Absolutely. All right. Are you ready to talk about everything Trail Goods Company?
Sure am. Let's go.
All right. But before we do, the listeners know what's coming. I don't know how familiar you are with the podcast, but I have a little special segment called the Lightning Round. These are questions that you've not seen. And it's really just like the title is, Lightning Round. So the first words that pop in your mind, and kind of what's funny, my kids have listened to the podcast and they go, you go on about this lightning round, quick answers. And half the time I ask questions, the guests and I are sitting there talking and it's not very lightning-y. Even with the magic of edit, it's these long answers and it's kind of like that Dave Portnoy, whatever his last name is.
Portnoy,
the one bite, everybody knows the rules and he eats like almost the whole slice before he gives the score. So that's kind of how my lightning round is. We may have quick answers and we may talk. So are you ready?
Whatever works. Yep, I'm ready.
All right. Sweet or savory on trail?
Savory.
Tent or hammock?
Tent.
Favorite hiking season?
Summer.
Summer. Okay.
Yeah. Longest days.
So I can tell you're not in Texas.
No.
Hiking boots or trail runners?
Trail runners all day.
Sunrise, sunset?
Sunrise.
First thing you crave after a long backpacking trip?
Cheeseburger or pizza.
One ingredient you could sneak into every trail meal if you could?
If I could, nuts.
Most overrated trail snack?
Snickers.
Best environment to really test a new recipe?
Above 10,000 feet.
Nice. All right, instant coffee. Is it a necessary evil or a trail tragedy?
It's a necessary evil, and I sell it, so it's definitely a necessary evil.
Most underrated flavor combo in outdoor meals?
Underrated flavor combo. I think there's a lot of Mediterranean flavors that are missing in outdoor flavors, like herbs. We're missing the herbs.
All right, herbs it is. You get one trail meal for the rest of your life. What's it going to be?
My Loco Moco.
Loco Moco. All right. Dream hike or backpacking trip that is currently on your bucket list?
That's a good one. My buddy just did the Tour de Mont Blanc in France, in Chamonix. I think that'd be a nice one. Yeah, it's beautiful. Bang for the buck.
Most overrated piece of gear?
The most overrated piece of gear is probably rain pants.
What is your favorite piece of gear?
Oh, it's like a 1/8 inch foam pad just for hanging out.
There you go. While you have that coffee.
That's right. It's so handy.
All right. Would you rather hydrate a meal by cold soaking or hike an extra 3 miles to get access to boiling water?
Cold soak, I think. Man.
Forget your spoon or forget your stove on a backpacking trip.
I'll forget my spoon all day, every day.
All right. Launch a new trail meal and it's an instant cult hit, but it's not your favorite, or launch a meal that you love, but it barely sells.
Oh, I would say one that's not my favorite for sure. I mean, I make meals that I think I like, but truly I'm trying to make meals that I think everybody else likes. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right. This is the last question. It is the controversy question of the lightning round. If you get the answer wrong, it's okay. We're going to keep on going. If you get it right, I'll give you a thumbs up.
Okay.
So, best for hydration on trail, water bottles or hydration bladder?
Water bottles all day.
Boom. Thumbs up. All right. I love it. All right. You survived, and it was pretty fast. So I think that's probably the fastest lightning round that I've ever had out of the 100. And this will be episode 126. So,
all right.
Something to be proud of.
We're already winning.
That's right. I think it's important for myself as well as the listeners to kind of get to know about you and then kind of your outdoor and hiking journey. So tell us a little bit about yourself and about your outdoor background.
Sure. I'll give you kind of like the quick edited version. I grew up in New Jersey, of all places, and you don't necessarily think about the outdoors in New Jersey going hand in hand, but like honestly, it's like part of the Appalachian Trail. It's the Garden State for a reason. There is a lot of camping in New Jersey, things like that. But my parents were both avid campers and backpackers when they were younger. So I grew up, in an era of people that, during a time when I don't think too many people did that sort of thing. Like my parents did that sort of thing. So that was instilled in me at a really young age. And I remember being, a young kid and saving up all my money for like years to buy. I was obsessed with getting a 0 degree down sleeping bag. Like that's all I wanted. I think it was for like my 14th birthday. My parents took me to this big camping store that I loved called Campmore in Paramus, New Jersey. And I bought my 0 degree sleeping bag, which, by the way, is overkill for anywhere you would ever go on the East Coast. But like for some reason, I thought that was the coolest thing ever to have a 0 degree sleeping bag. And I like that sleeping bag is like literally still in the closet behind me.
No way.
Yeah. It's still there and it doesn't get used as much, but every once in a while I'll take it out for nostalgia. It's probably, I don't know, over 35 years old now, but it in really great condition, honestly. Go camp more in your craftsmanship in like the early 90s maybe. But as a company, God, if I ever get my meals into that store, because it's still around, I would have a story to tell. Oh yeah, for sure. It's like kind of the big one in New Jersey. It's like the
you should go there with that 0 degree and say, "Let me tell you a story."
Yeah. I got that. I got that, and I got a candle lantern. Remember those things? Like you put like a big thick candle in it, and had like a metal top that you could like put your pot on and boil water if you needed to.
Yep.
Yeah, had a glass, cylinder for the windscreen or whatever you call it. But yeah, those are my 2 items that I got. So anyway, I was in love with camping and gear and everything related to backpacking and camping as a kid. I read the book Hatchet by Gary Paulson when I was little. I don't know if you've ever read it, but I was like, yes, I want to survive it. I want to survive in the wilderness.
Yeah.
And befriend a falcon, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was in love with it. And I was in love with, being a gearhead from a very young age. And that translated into my adult life, not immediately, but sort of indirectly over the years. After I went to school in upstate New York, I got a degree in photography, in advertising photography. And after that, I moved to Hawaii. So it's like the first wild place I'd ever been, because there's like some cool outdoorsy, like you can get lost in Hawaii type situations. And I worked on a TV show there called Lost. And it was a very popular show at the time and got a lot of accolades, and it started a TV career for me. So I worked in television and film for probably, 15 to 20 years in Los Angeles after that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, working on TV shows and movies and doing that whole thing. But eventually I got a little burned out and I became a guide in South America. So I led adventure tours for about a year across the continent. I'd pick up 21 people in Ecuador and I'd drop them off in Chile.
What?
Yeah. So, I would do the Inca Trail like every 4 weeks or something like that. Or 6
Wow.
weeks. Yeah. But anyway, so like, I just like, I love being outside. I love kind of chasing the adventure life. And it led me to honestly just like being a creative in the outdoors, really. I was doing a lot of work for outdoor brands. I was actually the photographer for Appalachian Gear Company for a long time when they were in existence. I don't know if you remember them, but they've been out of business for a couple of years. Really good people there. Yeah. So I actually, the way I got into food, and I'll wrap this up quickly, is that I was hired to be a consultant for another food brand just based on my expertise. I had hiked the Community of Santiago, I hiked the Colorado Trail, I'd done all these things. And I went in there, I put forth kind of a plan to revamp their company. They ended up hiring me to be the brand director for the brand and rebrand the whole company. Successfully kind of did that. We sold into like big box stores and ownership of the company changed. And like literally, I treated my job like it was my company, which maybe in hindsight I shouldn't have done, because, and this is the quote that I think of often is, if you don't own it, someone can always take it away from you. And so my baby was taken away from me as soon as it was, generating a decent amount of revenue for the company I was working for. And that was kind of my the moment where I just said, I'm going to build it for myself. I've done this. I know how to do it. I've done it successfully. And now I can kind of like do it the way I won't hit any of the roadblocks that you do with a corporate job where everyone has an opinion and everyone's, kind of stopping you from doing things the way you at least feel like are the right way to do things. Yeah, that's my story.
I love it. That's crazy. The South America stuff, that's a whole nother episode. So I may send you an invite whenever things slow down. That's awesome. So if you look back as a kid, was there a particular trip or experience that really hooked you on the outdoors?
That's a good question. So like my parents were both teachers, so they had their summers off. And we had family in Minnesota that we would go to see every summer, and we'd road trip out there. But what we do in that 2.5 month period as a family, we would camp across the country. So, and my parents were outdoor people. So I got to stay in like dozens and dozens of state parks and national parks. So I was exposed to these things like in the 80s that people are just discovering now. I mean, I might even have it somewhere in my desk right next to me. You know that, the national parks passport books?
Yeah.
I have one from like 1989 that I've been collecting stamps in.
No way.
Yeah. And like when I bring them, it's in one of these drawers, I can't find it now, but when I bring them to the national parks and they see, it says like, Luke Pearsall, age 8 or whatever it is,
Whoa.
I have like, it's stained, it's gone through like car floods and things like that, but I still have it and I still collect stamps in it. So I was visiting national parks, and many people visited national parks, but like before it was popularized by social media and like people, during COVID found out that there's all this natural beauty in the country
Mm-hmm.
and they'd never seen.
Yep.
And it's like, holy crap, we can drive 6 hours and see the Grand Canyon from Los Angeles or whatever, however long it takes. My like, to answer your question, I think, there was a moment when I was younger and my dad took me on a birthday backpacking trip, hut to hut in the White Mountains. And I never, it was so cool to me. It was my birthday's in August. And I thought in my mind, I was like, oh, it's going to be hot. But it was like freezing cold on the top of Mount Washington. And my dad had to buy me, he bought me a pair of wool socks from the hut because my hands were freezing. And I don't know, it was just like my first sort of oh, this is like adult hiking. Like something could go wrong if we don't take this seriously, but also the adventure, was so fun. And I was with my dad and my uncle, and it just felt like we gave each other trail names because we saw all the AT through hikers had come through and put their trail names in. And I just thought it was so cool. I fell in love with a long distance kind of hiking thing. Maybe at that point, I don't know. But in 4th grade, I did a book report on the Appalachian Trail. And it was 20 pages long. I had that map on my wall from the national park for probably 10 years.
Wow.
Before any long distance hiking was popularized.
Nice.
And I never got to do it.
Yeah. So is that on your bucket list?
I would say that it's a maybe one day situation. I was supposed to through hike the PCT in 2020, and we all know how that played out. I was literally getting on a plane when the world shut down. I was headed to San Diego to start hiking, and that was the end of it. But a lot of that money that I saved for through hiking has been used to start trail goods. So the irony is, I one big adventure was taken away from me, and another big adventure began just a few years later.
And, when you were talking about the whites, my heaven on earth is Guadalupe Mountain National Park. It's one of the least visited national parks. I've been there 20-something times. But we had a ranger there, Pam Bells, the movie Infinite Storm.
Shout out, Pam.
I had no idea it was Pam Bells. And every time I would go to the park, I would see her, and we would talk about, she was always involved in the fatalities and rescues of the park. She's in her 70s, slaying the trail.
Yeah.
She just hit the most summits of the highest peak in Texas, over 316 summits, I believe. So yeah, she was a badass. And, I'm talking to her, and she sees mountain lions out there, and I want to see a mountain lion in real life. So we're talking one day, and a guest that came on the podcast, who's actually a good friend of mine, Mr. Barry, he was lost in the park for 5 days. When they found him, he was pretty much dead. And she was part of that rescue. So we always talk about how Mr. Barry's doing, because I always go visit him at least once a year. And anyway, so we're talking, and she's telling me about a rescue. And I'm like, man, Pam, that sounds like there's a movie or something. She starts smiling, and she grabs her name badge, and she kind of just turns it. And I'm like, you're Pam Bells? And she just laughs. I'm like, oh my God. And, I don't freak out about movie stars or sports crap, but man, I was in hog heaven, and I was taking Ussies. But yeah, I talked to her for years and had no idea who it was. And I think this past year, maybe in January, February, it was the middle part of last year, she retired from the Guads. She kind of was making her way up to see her daughter in Colorado. And so I text her about once a month and go, hey, Pam, just checking in. How are you doing and stuff? And, she's in her 70s. She's out in the middle of nowhere, no tent, mummy bag, just a mat to
cowboy
sleep on.
Camping.
Yes. And just out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, Pam, does your family not worry about you? And, she laughs. But yeah, she was on her way back to the Whites, where she kind of started and going to retire and just kind of settle down. So
nice. Yeah, Guadalupe it's a national park I've actually never been to, but I've heard one.
Luke, you ever want to come?
Not in the summer.
No. In the wintertime, we have B-24 plane crash. We have Jose's grave. We have... See, one thing about the Guads, and not to get off direction, but It's not like other national parks where you can just drive through. Like, you have to earn your experience. You
Yeah,
have to get out of your car and you have to walk. You can't drive through and see stuff. It's
I appreciate that.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 entry points, one up through New Mexico and then 2 or 3, in Texas. And yeah, you have to earn it. You have to get out of your car. And so I love it. And I love that every time I'm there, I don't ever see anybody. So
Yeah, I know. That's perfect.
yeah. So looking at you today, what role does the outdoors play in your life?
I mean, it's kind of a tricky question. And this is another one that I think about often. It's like the more that I've gotten involved as an outdoor industry business owner, the less time I get to spend outdoors. It is the fatal flaw of all of us, and I'm sure many other business owners that are in the industry would say the same thing. You're so like our busy season is the season everyone's going outside. You know,
Yep.
we have to be going to trade shows and events and pushing our products and not spending time in the mountains where we want to be. It's honestly it's been like quite tragic for me. It's the one thing that's like regrettable about owning the business at this point is like I didn't go backpacking once last summer, which is absurd. I usually spend up until I started in the outdoor industry, I would spend about 50 nights a year outside, sleeping under the stars. And, that has probably gone down to 10, maybe a few more. But like it dramatically reduces your amount of time outside. But at the same time, like you go outside, like I just went for one night last weekend to Leadville, Colorado, and I was like, oh, this is why I do this. I forgot. Like the days when you're just like buried in emails and trying to find money or customer service, emails or whatever it is. You kind of forget like, oh man, I make these so people can sit like by this river looking at Mount Massive on a chair and just like let life roll away from them for 12 hours, or whatever amount of time people get to be outside. And it makes me feel like what I do is still important. And it might not be important to anyone but me, but like I think being part of someone's like little adventure is what is exciting to me. My meals are going to go a lot more places than I'll ever get to go in my life. But like that means that a little piece of me gets to go on all these little adventures, and I think that's pretty cool.
And that's I've said this 1,000 times, and it's funny you just answered that question the way you did because Anastasia Kulikov, same thing. She thought she was going to be outdoors more, and no, she's not outdoors. She's way less than what she used to be.
Yeah.
But and this is also goes to the listeners. These people, these company owners, these creators, I mean, that right there, that's what I'm talking about. All this sacrifice that you're doing for us, our community. And that's, it just really tells the character that you all have. And yeah, it's,
I mean, I'm grateful that I was part of the community before I ever tried to sell anything to anyone in the community because there's a lot of people that just jump in and are just trying to. I think sometimes it feels like when big brands or corporations or brands get too big, it almost feels like they're stealing from their customers. But like, I feel like I'm making meals for my friends,
Yep.
That's why it's so important to me. It's like, I know the people that are going to eat these. I am one of those people. Like, if you look at like some of the legacy brands that exist in the space, in the freeze dried space, like you can't find the person that cooks those meals. You can't find the person that made the recipe because it's a scientist. It's not a cook. It's someone that like did some market research and did some competitive analysis and decided that they need to launch a pizza flavored meal or something. People can figure out what brand I'm talking about by that. But
you don't have to agree with what I'm about to say. I'm going to say it here on the Trailblazing Texas podcast. You can look. I've had meals from small companies such as yourself, and you can taste the heart that goes into it versus these meals that come from these big companies that it's just a bunch of cardboard. And
yeah,
You don't have to agree with it. It's my opinion. I've experienced it. I've tasted it, and there is a difference.
I would say 100%, honestly. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that when the big corporations, they're trying to make the most amount of money, right? Like they want to pay the least for ingredients and make the most amount of money. I don't think about that. I mean, I have to think about it because I'm a business, but like I'm not gonna reduce the amount of any like premium ingredient if it means that my meal won't taste as good. It's that's not why I'm making meals. I want people to like sit there and enjoy the meal. And I don't have any stockholders that I have to, answer to. And, it'd be great if this thing took off and maybe I could make a little money off it, which I haven't paid myself in 2.5 years. Like I've literally have been living off savings and putting it all into the business if we make any money. So like I'm more poor at 44 years old than I had ever been like in my entire life. It is absurd, but there's something extremely gratifying about putting a good meal forward that people enjoy. Like you can go buy a meal for like $8 or $9 or $10, and it's not going to taste as good as the ones we make that we have to charge what we have to charge just to make a little. There's not a lot of margin in food. Food costs are like through the roof, and we have to maintain like a reasonable price just so we can stay in business, really. Hopefully that'll change one day. Right now, I mean, if you're in the food business, and I'm sure you've maybe talked to some others, like you have to do a lot of volume to, be able to even pay yourself, which like I haven't done that volume yet. I can't pay myself. So, I'm working every day, probably, 8 to 10 hours, sometimes 12, and I don't see a paycheck. I spend a lot, but I don't see a paycheck.
And also I think most of the people that I hike and backpack with and most of the people that I know, they want to pay a little bit extra to support businesses like yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it's acceptable and there's no issues.
I have to tell you, I was so scared of that. And truly, it just seems like the community of people that understand like what they're buying and who they're buying from understand that like, hey, like an extra $1.50, to get a meal that like someone basically made by hand, like cooked themselves, like sourced the ingredients, cut up the vegetables, is probably worth it rather than like a meal that's $1.50 or $2 less that came out of like a mass produced machine or ran off a conveyor belt into a pot that automatically cooks it. No one ever tastes the meal. It just is what it is. And then it gets packed
No.
and then makes you fart your brains out all night on the trail.
Yeah, and hurt your stomach and all that stuff. With all your experience in the outdoors, kind of starting from really the early part of your life, how do you think your outdoor experiences have influenced who the person you are today?
I mean, I think that like truly I landed in the right spot. I landed in this weird little niche in a big industry because I love being outside and food was always so like just to like kind of make the connector there. Like my memories of being outside were always connected to food, whether it was good food or bad food. They're always connected to food. Like my memories on those road trips with my parents were, my dad at the big green Coleman, white gas stove, like priming it, and like that smell of and then like just like even just making the Kraft macaroni and cheese and like a old mess kit, like that's a memory. So there's like a campfire and there's that stove and there's my dad and my mom and like drinking out of a, remember those like, they were like miners cups that kind of like flailed out on the edge.
Yep.
I would drink like Tang out of one of those. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I could like put it on a carabiner in my backpack. My memories are all connected food to the outdoors. And I never really understood that until I started thinking on a deeper level, like why did I end up here? Like how did how did I go from this guy that was like worked in film and television to a guy that's like in a kitchen, like making dozens and dozens of recipes and meals.
Yeah.
It all goes back to the fact that I loved being outside and I loved eating food outside, which is a weird connection to make. But, going back to like Christmas presents, when I was in 6th grade, I asked for a food dehydrator. That's what I wanted for Christmas.
Wow.
And my parents still have it.
Really?
Yeah, because I wanted to make my own camping food. I wanted to dehydrate apples and bananas because I read about it in books. And so, like, here I am, like, cut to 35 years later, I have a freeze dryer I can park a semi truck in. It's all connected. I didn't know, but I guess it kind of is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we kind of talked about kind of really hooked you to the outdoors. What's one trip that really stands out? If you kind of look back at everything you've done, what is that one trip that you got to tell somebody about?
I mean, it's probably the year I spent in South America. Like, it's so unique, and my role in that, story was so unique, and the places I would see and the people I traveled with, it was all so unique. Being at 15,000 feet, in the Andes, it's kind of unmatched. But like all the big outdoor experiences are their own stories in the book, right? Like I hiked the Camino de Santiago in Spain, so we walked across Spain, and that was a uniquely different backpacking experience. It was more of like a cultural experience and like kind of like a spiritual experience, where you're connecting with, the world around you and dealing with things that might be in your head. Like that's the history of that trail. But, the Colorado Trail was like a big adventure too. Your average elevation is 10,400 feet on that trail over 500 miles. So like it's uniquely different in its own way and so hard to do. And it just makes you feel so accomplished when you finish it. But like truly South America is just so unique. And the time, you spend down there and just living in a culture and, seeing how other people live and that they live with very little and they're still happy. We surround ourselves with a lot of stuff. But these people had yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sitting in a room full of stuff. Like, do I need a refrigerator over my left-hand shoulder? No. But it's convenient.
Yeah. Do I need my 9 tents and 8 backpacks? No.
No, but the things make you happy.
Yeah.
It's all relative, but that
Yep.
experience was the experiences. It's so unique. The people, the places, the time spent there. Like no one gets a year of their life or 8 months of their life to just, be working, but truly on like the world's greatest expedition, across continents.
So have you ever had a trip go completely sideways?
Oh, like almost always.
Every day.
Yeah, every day. Welcome to Trail Goods. Yeah. I mean, there's moments on a lot of trips that like were like, moments that get a little sketchy, or especially in South America. The nature of South America in and of itself is like there could be political unrest, there could be like natural disasters. I mean, it was just a wild time. I'm glad I was 25 when I was doing that, because I think 44-year-old Luke would be a little bit like, this is nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could put this into perspective here, draw you a picture. We would take I was called a local transportation guide. So I would lead tours using all public transportation or like ground transportation or things like that. So overland vehicles or buses, things like that. So we would be on these trails where, to picture this is the bus, right? And this is the road. The bus would sometimes swing out over a turn. So the front of the bus would be nothing but air underneath it as it turned around on like an Andean road.
Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like buses do barrel off those. Like we lost some people that we had kind of met on that tour. A bus had toppled over, and a whole bus full of I think British tourists maybe were lost, which is wild. But yeah, a lot of that stuff. Like we were in a mine in Bolivia, and it started to collapse. and
Golly.
yeah, and it did. And in fact, it did. Like the entrance we came in collapsed. It was an old silver mine, and it was terrifying. You had to take the back door out, which the back door of a mine.
No.
This is pre like LED lamps that last forever too. We had like the big like miners like battery on your
Yeah.
forehead. You're like, this thing's got to have like 45 minutes tops with the light in it. But
Oh, man.
yeah, so many things have gone sideways. But
Yeah, yeah. And you're still here to talk about them. That's
still
awesome.
here. It's all part of the grand story, I guess. If you can make it out alive.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you on trail?
I mean, it's probably inappropriate to talk about, but like a lot of funny stories that happen are basically centered around like people having to go to the bathroom or people going to the bathroom. So I could probably leave it at that, and people can be. I mean, you see a buddy come out of the woods without pants on and be like, dude, crap my pants. I don't know what to do. Grown men.
Yep, yep.
I came on quick. I don't know. It makes me laugh. I have the humor of like a 12-year-old boy. So,
Hey, my funniest moment on trail, one of my really good friends from New Mexico, we were doing Gray's Tory, and we were heading up to Gray's, and of course, nature calls.
oh yeah,
We're at a switchback
yep,
above tree line, and he starts kicking steps in while going around the mountain, and people are freaking out thinking that, if he slips, he's dead.
yeah,
He's off the side of the mountain.
for sure.
And so he found some rocks. I gave him a wag bag. He did his business. He came back and he goes, "Hey man," he goes, "You got any wipes and hand sanitizer?"
No.
And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Man, I got shit all over my finger."
Yeah, I mean that's it. That's it. You named it.
Yeah.
Those
We
are the
laugh
stories.
about that. Yeah, it's it's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. I mean, all right, I'll tell a story of this because it's only incriminate me and people might laugh. So my girlfriend, who I've lived with and we've been together for a while now, we went on our first camping trip, and like I had stomach issues, and I tried to play it cool, and I like walked off to try to find somewhere to go, but I could not find anywhere to go. And I'm like I'm like sweating, I hear her and like
Mhm.
some friends like hear the campfire like off in the distance, and I'm like, this is not gonna end well. This is definitely not gonna end well. And I wanted I like time was up. So,
Yep.
I took like what I thought I thought I was like deep in the woods, but I was probably like only like 10 feet off the main road. And, obviously didn't go prepared.
Yep.
And end up cleaning up the business with my boxer shorts, my underwear, and take it back with me because I'm not going to leave it in the woods. But they're like, where am I going to put it? So I found like a big gulp cup, and I stuffed it in the big gulp cup. And we were newly dating, so I tried to like hide it in the car somewhere. And like,
Oh no.
and later that night, she came up to me. And she's like, "Are you okay?" Because I found the cup. I found the cup in the car.
Oh.
I was like, "Oh God, oh God,
Yep.
yeah, you found the crap cup, didn't you? My dirty boxers in it."
Yep. Hey man, it happens. But it's memories. It's stuff that
Oh
you look
yeah,
back and you laugh about. But in the moment, the panic is real. Sam
oh,
was in a panic and
oh yeah,
I'm sure you were too.
oh yeah. I mean, the next day, as we were like walking down the trail, I tried to hurry everyone past the area. Like, pretty sure there's a crime scene somewhere over there.
Yep. Oh, I love it. I love that story. Thanks for
Yeah,
sharing.
yeah, of course.
All right, so let's transition to talking about Trail Goods Company.
Sure.
How would you describe the company to someone that's never heard about it?
So when I talk about Trail Goods Company and freeze dried food in general, what I always kind of like to say is that like we did not reinvent the wheel, but we're making the wheel a lot tastier. It runs a lot better. Freeze dried technology has changed like so much over probably the past 20 years or so that like you can really freeze dry a lot more than you could maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago. But even though the technology had changed, not a lot of people were utilizing, or at least experimenting with like making food better that tastes good in, in that capacity. And truly, like I think that there was a lack of just culinary understanding in the freeze dried world. The legacy brands, they were brands that were born in like World War II. They were they were born to make, you know, nutritional food for soldiers to sustain them and be non-perishable. And it never, in my humble opinion, it didn't depart from that too much. It always stayed in that sort of MRE, super kind of preservative-y, make it as cheap as you can, put as many calories as you can kind of realm. And truly, like I love food, like I said, and I've always been like very, very interested in culinary arts. So when I finally had the opportunity to be able to play with a freeze dryer at my last company, and like I was like, oh, why has no one cooked the meals that we all love at home? Why can't they be meals that we love to eat on trail? We have the technology, and like no one's really. I mean, it's happening now. Trail Goods was born basically because there had to be a better way, right? Like the legacy brands, and I refer to them like that because you can package them all together, but the legacy brands haven't done anything to like do better. I mean, if I'm being honest, I have sent my meals to some of those brands' research and development departments. I've caught them buying my meals, which is a common practice amongst food. But like
Yeah.
I'm a little tiny brand. How is the biggest brands in the world? What are they meddling with my meals for? It's because they're, in my humble opinion, it's time for them to do better, or you either adapt or die, kind of thing. And I don't think they're ever going to adapt. They're ever going to die, but they certainly will have to adapt. And I don't know. There's something fun about buying from like a cottage industry brand in a industry that is, kind of embraced cottage industry people. It's fun.
Yeah.
The community supports the community, and that's why there's been so many successful, or at least seemingly successful cottage brands that like my own that have popped up more often than not as part of the hiking community or backpacking community or outdoor community in general. More people want to help you out than hurt you, and that's kind of been a beautiful thing. I've actually particularly found that, and I know it might be polarizing to some people, but I've actually found that a lot in the hunting industry.
Yeah.
Hunters have been very open to, inviting a new person like myself into their world and saying like, hey, if you make good food, man, we spend a lot of money to go hunting, we'll eat it. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think for companies like Trail Goods, what I've noticed is you can change something on the fly.
yeah,
If something doesn't go right, or maybe you're thinking, hey, I could do this better, you can immediately make that change and implement it and get it out to the consumers. These other companies, whether it's a food company, a
oh yeah,
backpacking company, or a tent company, that these big, these big kind of franchisee, big box companies, they can't make changes.
no,
And it's like, I think it was Anastasia with Kula Cloth, she was saying that she
Yeah.
was ready to change this one thing. And then, the company that she's dealing with that has her product or something, they're like, oh, we can't do this. And I got to go ask these people. Then they got to go ask these people. And we got to get approval from this. And they're ready to rock. And just, same thing with Ben at Hilltop Packs. Same thing. He said,
Yep.
man, he's constantly making changes to his product.
Oh man, I message Ben all the time and like, hey Ben, what do you think about this? Could you make this?
Mm-hmm.
When we
And he
launched
will.
when we launched Trail Goods, I was like, I need like a koozie for these, and he made like not the traditional koozie, he made like a half koozie, and it's kind of
Yep.
like it worked for him, and it's kind of cool, and he sells it, and it's fun to see the meals in it, and it's just like, yeah, that adaptability and ability to move quickly when you're not harnessed to the corporate kind of entity is incredible. For me, it's a matter. I do have some like safety things I have to deal with in terms of
Yeah.
the USDA, but changing a package just means I have to get approved again. So that's truly like I could pivot that quick, and it doesn't take a lot. I just have to sell through the packages that I have so I'm not burning them. But like the meal behind me over here, like that meal, it was in the first 3 runs of Trail Goods. It was a stir-fried pork noodles, but the pork became unavailable and it became really difficult. It was a bottleneck for the company. So I 86'd it. I changed the sauce. I took some of the, input from people that had bought it, because we made thousands of them, like sold thousands of them. There was nothing wrong with the meal at all. I really liked it a lot. And there's people that kind of miss it, but
Yeah.
I have a beef version now that has ground beef in it. So, but the sauce is completely different. It's a completely different meal, but similar kind of style to that meal. But that's an example of, like, if you were a bigger company, you would have to sell through 60,000 pouches.
Oh, yeah.
I had to sell through 800, and then I could change.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, that's exactly the beauty of a cottage industry, the ability to pivot, for sure.
So we kind of talked about how you got the idea for starting the company and kind of what that problem that you wanted to solve is. So tell the listeners and myself, what were the early days like when you first kicked this off?
I mean, for me, I have such a different founder story in the food world than most of the other people you talk to, because I came from a corporate version of it. So we had money and we had resources. So if I had an idea at my last job and I wanted to try to implement it, I'd have to go through the works, but like, we could make it happen if it was a sound idea. The money would be there, or like we'd be able to find it. And I had, a half a dozen people that were working with me on all these projects. I had project managers, I had people in the warehouse, I had sales reps, I had, accountants, I had all these people to do all these things that I'm not as good at. I was a creative guy. I am great at branding. I'm good at marketing, but the nuts and bolts, like, it's a team. Like, you really need a team. And right now I'm a team of one. So in some ways it's good, because I've learned all the other roles in the company, and that is really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
But in other ways, I had this conversation today with a friend of mine, my old boss, actually. And I was just like, this is becoming like a load that is hard to carry on my own. And I'm approaching a spot where I'm going to need an employee. The problem with Trail Goods is it presents a lot bigger than it is. I can actually create a lot of meals. I built it to scale very quickly. So if I get big orders, I can make large quantities, which is the difference between me and a lot of other cottage brands that exist. And again, that goes back to the corporate side of things. But just, it's one of these things that I don't know. I need help. I'm getting to the point where I need help. And if things move like they are continuing to move, which is great, maybe one day we'll all get a paycheck.
Nice. As the listeners, though, I'm going to push your company, and I'm going to challenge the listeners to buy you out.
Yeah,
stock constantly. So you will have that promise from the Trailblazing Texas podcast.
Man, I'm happy to feed anyone that wants to give us a shot. That's for sure. Well, it's actually good timing, because we are fully out of stock right now. But next week, which will be the last week in June. I don't know when the podcast is going to come out. Well, we will be fully back in stock with many, many meals. So that's the other side of it, man. You got to wait.
Yeah, so are you able to take orders now, even though you're out of stock?
I prefer to not do that. I don't like to hold on to anybody's money without a promise of meals in hand, because I don't want anyone to be like, I ordered these meals and they took 2 weeks to get to me, because those meals, I have cooked all those meals. I went to pizzeria, I cooked them. They need to be they're freeze dried now, so they need to be pouched and then come to me. So it might be 5 days before I get them, and then I can open up the shop and I'll just be cranking. But I'd assume the time is going to be okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be ordering some, so be on the lookout.
Yeah, we can. I'll send you.
No. I buy them. I will not take discounts or free stuff. So.
Well, I appreciate that. I have a problem. I like to give away more meals than I like to sell.
Well, I've had lots of offers, and I have to refuse it, because if I care about you, I don't want a discount. I don't want free stuff, because if I care about you, I want you to have that. So, and that wraps up another exciting episode of the Trailblazing Texas podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode today, and stay tuned for our next episode where we will pick back up where we left off and guarantee to uncover many more hiking gems and share many more tips to enhance your experience on the trail. Until then, happy trails and happy hiking.